Greetings and welcome to Conversations with Tony Mobley. On Conversation with Tony Mobley today, I have my friend Liberty White. This is episode 14 of 2025 of Conversation with Tony Mobley. This is episode 14, but I want you to know that we have well over 100 episodes of Conversation with Tony Mobley. We are powered by Mimo Live. I want to thank the team behind Conversation with Tony Mobley. And you can watch past episodes of Conversation with Tony Mobley at conversationwithtonymobley.com, as well as our YouTube channel. We have an interactive question manager, and it's courtesy of Alex Lindsay. It's called Mukana. There you can ask your questions, and those questions can be voted up and down. But if you don't want to do that, you can ask your questions in the YouTube chat. And we're going to get right into it. So, first, I want to say welcome, Liberty White. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being here. I know you have been running ragged. You have been doing so many different things.
Yes.
And for you to take time to be with me today, I really appreciate it. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be here with the Conversations with Tony Mobley community and all those watching all over the world. So thank you for taking time out of your day, whether it's live or the replay, to spend some time with us. So I'm happy to be here, Tony.
Well, we're going to get right into it because we got a lot to get to. So, we're going to ask the very basic question that we always ask all of our guests: who are they? So, who is Liberty White? Is the first question. But I'm going to preface it by saying you've been on the show before and
Yes.
you have shared a lot of information with us about your history. So, I'm going to ask you to be brief so that we can get into the nitty gritty of talking about women and AI and talking about what future work might look like.
Awesome. Well, as Tony said, I'm Liberty White, founder of Chosen Media, which also has She Learns AI, which is I look at it as a startup, just a little bit over a year old, and in this iteration of my life and development, not only a woman in business, a mom, a leader in the tech community with over 20 years in tech and media. So now, like many of us, finding our way as artificial intelligence and automations and all of the nature of work, business, and life has changed so much. So I am here to have that conversation and just how I've been navigating the space and helping others. I hope that was brief enough.
It was good. I also want you to talk a little bit about Chosen Media because you are still doing that and you are providing services. And so let people know what the services are that you are providing through Chosen Media.
Yeah, great question, Tony. Thank you. So I look at Chosen Media very much so as the parent, the umbrella company. So people know us for content creation, production, the strategy aspect. So those things happen for those who, if you know, you know that those clientele there were very much so now focused on our other verticals being training, which interestingly enough, this is actually a great segue. And 2016, so I've always individually, I've always been teaching as far back as in Dallas, it was like 2004. So there's always been an element where it has either, back then it was microcomputers. So those of you who know that language and that terminology, spent some time at General Assembly teaching digital marketing there, and then spun off on my own in 2016 and was really helping startups figuring out what tools and resources, whether that was video editing, whether that was social media, had other trainers you're familiar with, Dan Flores, a friend who's just passed recently, Ashia Sims Humphrey, one of our trainers. So that has always been education and learning has always been a part of what we do, but that was always the the complement to the main services, and now it's kind of like flipped, and now the main services are training and education.
Okay. You have really just answered the question that I was about to ask. So,
We
I'm
can
going
go
to ask.
deeper. You can still ask it, and
Well, all
I
right,
can try
I'll
to go
ask it
deeper.
again. Please talk about your career and the things that have led up to what you're currently doing in women in AI.
Yeah. So okay, so I can see that. And you know what? I didn't it didn't really hit that wait, that has always been there. And I love when I come on conversations with Tony Mobley to in through having these conversations, I get aha moments, but I know very much your platform is also to inspire others to either see or think differently. So even with this question, I just realized like, wait a second. You've been, this is not something new. It may be new to the world or new to those who met me on office hours. And so they know the production side, but training was always there because people are constantly trying to figure out whether that be from a consulting perspective, like how do we do this more efficiently? So that was always there. And as I think I might have shared this on Monday on office hours, but just I've always been doing tutorials, always trying to show people like, oh, this new thing that I learned. And that was just, it was always just an aside. It was never, it wasn't really the main thing, me showing stuff, because it was just fun. It's like, oh, just like, you know, Tony, you'll send me some messages like, have you seen this lately? And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's so neat. And you've actually been my breaking news in in a lot of some of this AI stuff, and we'll get to that later when we talk about community and who's around you.
I'm going
But
to tell you a little secret.
okay,
So I used to send a lot of different notifications to my siblings, and they got tired of it. And I
I
also
knew
would
that.
I would send a lot of the notifications to my niece Carissa in terms of different things as far as technology is concerned. They're not interested in it, so I said, "Well, I'll send it to Liberty until she tells me to stop." So I,
Oh no, I love it because there was and actually and I think I even credited you in like on She Learns AI on LinkedIn. I was like, and thank you, Tony Mobley, because it was breaking. I think OpenAI had done was about to do one of their office hour type of announcements, and so we were on it, and we were one of the first people to talk about it. So I'm like, keep it coming, Tony, keep it coming.
all right, be careful what you ask for. So I will continue to share.
Awesome.
Um, but uh, this idea that you have, I'm going to say, a mission of bringing AI to women, and why, and well, I know that you say women, but I think you initially started with girls. You were really sort of focused on girls. Is that correct?
Well, with Chosen Media Kids, like the kids aspect of things, and so She Learns AI evolved out of it was, as I said, like we're just a little bit over a year of starting that, and that was initiated during Women's History Month. So Women's History Month being where we're celebrating what the just the evolution and the growth in business, career, life, and just the things that women have been able to achieve that during that month I was just thinking, you know, what am I going to do this month? I don't just want to go live and do an interview with someone. I've done that. Lots of people are doing that. What can I do differently? And I think it might have been that morning or the night before a friend had sent a DM of someone doing a tutorial, some chat GPT tutorial. And in that, of me trying to think of what to do differently, I was, wait a second. I know that a lot of people, and those of you who are watching, you might be one of them. You see these cool tutorials, or whether that be on LinkedIn or YouTube or TikTok, wherever that may be, and you'll save it because it's like, okay, well, one day, or that was really cool, and you want to keep it nearby. But the real power and the strength isn't actually doing it. So that you are then being able to try something new, some muscle memory, sharpen your skills. So I was like, aha, that is it. I'm going to create some challenge and just get women to start prompting because the beauty of being in community, the beauty of being a part of the office hours community back at the end of 2022, we were all playing around and trying out Mid-Journey and some earlier than that, but Mid-Journey, we started having a lot of shows around Mid-Journey, ChatGPT, and it was in, I think it was like December of that time, January, Canva had rolled out some things, and I was like, oh, let me show the world like this integration with Canva and AI. And it went viral. Like I've seen it for clients, but when it's you and notifications are going off and everybody, and to see the comments from people that this is now, I spend so much time on social media and you've just changed my life. I There was a dad, he said he's in the kitchen making food for his kids and he had to stop and try it. And I'm sorry, kids, dad was just in that zone, but he had to stop and try it. And now he realizes how he can use that in his business. So to see the ability for something that I love to do to be able to impact someone's world like that, because then that gets into economic empowerment, economic impact, that father. And for us, yes, there's a focus on women, but it's everyone. At Women in AI Futures, men were there as well. But when you can change the way somebody thinks, or how, like, that one piece that they might have had missing, that now opens up their world to, okay, now they can focus on hiring someone else, because now they've been able to put certain systems in place because they understand how automations work, or how they can use some of these tools, Gemini, Claude, all the things. There's so many tools out there.
Right. Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. Let's talk about the major event that you had in March, where you had 5 days of activities. Some of it was virtual, a lot of it was in person,
Yes.
and it was at Georgia Tech. Is that right? Or
It was, so
Atlanta?
we had several locations. So Women in AI Futures, and very specific in that not only are we talking about what's happening in the landscape right now, but helping people to prepare for what's coming, prepare for what's next. So as you said, our first 2 days were our virtual programming. So we had trainers from Switzerland and other parts of the US, and it was that just excited because I do have a global audience. So wanting to make sure that people who aren't in Atlanta would still be able to participate, and that we had that for 2 days. And then day one in person was at Atlanta Tech Village, and that was where we had our C-suite. So we had folks like Nicola Smith from Southwest Airlines, and just talking through how they're using Gen AI, some of the things to be aware of. And we had folks like Misha, who was just talking through using AI agents. And so that, while very intimate, it was also like, there was a James, I'm forgetting James's last name right now, but I remember seeing this man off to the corner, and every time I walked by, he was just writing and writing. And at the end of the event, I was introduced to him, and I said, I just saw you writing. He created 9 days of content
Oh
from that
wow.
one day. And he said this wasn't just women in AI, this was women who are in AI, but it was all about AI. So that being one of the days, and the remaining 2 days all about upskilling. So we had labs, we had people coming in to show, like, people actually walked away learning how to create agents, because that was very, very important. Because when we look at the statistics coming out of the World Economic Forum, talking about how many jobs, new jobs, are needed by 2030, how many jobs will be replaced by 2030. That's a really short window to try to retrain, first of all, figure out what you need as an organization or an individual, and then to actually take that time to develop the curriculum, to actually train, to actually have those assessments. There's a lot that has to happen in such a short period of time so that people don't get left behind. So it was really intentional to not just have a couple of sessions, or like have a day you might go to a conference and a day or two, but that my thesis being in the consecutive, repetitive learning that would take place. And it was very transformative for people.
A couple of questions. First
Sure.
question is, was there a session on prompting?
Did we had Yes, yes. So we had a prompting session, and that was some elements, very small elements of it. And that was with, oh, why did I forget who did that? Oh, Cynthia Rethsberg had gone through some elements with that. And we had, and then also during our online, the AI readiness, we also had some prompting sessions as well.
We have a question from Dan Huber from, I
Hey,
believe that's
Dan.
Erie, Pennsylvania. Should AI be a part of STEM programs?
1,000%. And I believe that. So I have some friends and associates who have nonprofits and programming for youth. So I know people like Christina over there at Christina Newton at Hype, that they have elements. She just finished doing her first conference for young women, and her nonprofit is really geared towards training and skills training, and they have elements of AI. So when we look at, and please forgive me because I don't want to misquote this too much, but there was some news that came out last week just with regards to curriculum and the mandatory curriculum that's taking place in China and overseas, where AI is now a part of, like, that's mandatory. I want to say last year I saw some like AI only schools. I don't know if we need to go that far just yet, but yes, it needs to be a part of our learning for our students for the next generation.
And the other question that I had was that I know it was exhausting, the event that you had last month. Would you consider, is this going to be a yearly thing, or will there be another one before this year is up? Where are you with that?
Yeah, so I would say that in that full week programming, that'll be more of an annual, but we do have some pop-ups and an announcement that I'm waiting to say something on where Women in AI Futures will be next. So, yes.
Okay. Keep us posted.
I will.
Okay. I want to say, Dan, thank you so much for your question. Um, the next question is from David Paskin.
Hi, David.
Uh, what are what are your go-to AI tools? What are your go-to AI tools?
Yeah, I am so basic, like go to. And whenever we're training or speaking to people, always saying, like, what makes sense for you? There are tools that are coming out like every second, every minute. Sure, be aware of what they are, but does that make sense for your tool stack? So for me personally, and for those that work within our team, that is your Claude, that is ChatGPT, that is Descript. That's a big one because we are putting out so much content. That is Opus Clip as well. Um, Gemini, Google, that's their product. They've released so much in the past couple of weeks. I'm probably going to dive into that a little bit more just because of how it works internally, like with your documents, because many of us use the Google Workspace. So, but those overall are, oh, and then Otter for transcription. And so those, I think that was like six or seven that are the go-to elements, the go-to ones.
Okay.
Oh, Canva, how did I forget? And I mean, you can technically, like, I mean, Canva is not AI, but after last week's announcement, Canva very much so is saying, listen, we understand how many, I don't even remember, it was like 3 trillion or something. Again, don't quote me. I should have ChatGPT, Perplexity, that one as well. Like Perplexity has replaced Google. And my friend Keenan Weaver had said this last year. He's the one who introduced me to it, and we have like a text community, and he had said, he started to use it, and he's like, this is going to replace Google. And I'm like, yes, it has. I go to Perplexity before I go to Google.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Rabbi David Paskin, for that question. Let's see. Um, I'm going to ask you another question that's
Sure.
kind of, we had not had any. We have a lot of different conversations, but this is not something that you and I have talked about. So
Okay.
I'm sort of springing this on you right now. So, what do you think about the use of AI in houses of worship?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think that AI in the use of houses of worship and really anywhere, as long as you just kind of like that tool tech stack question, does it make sense? Have you done an assessment to what will work, how it's going to be used? Especially in a house of worship, there should be some sort of policy as well. So whether that be the gentleman that I mentioned earlier, James, like on all his articles, he said this article also used AI in certain elements and putting out some disclaimers. So I think in a house of worship, that's definitely where you want to see things, where you want to see AI ethics, like so that it's being used ethically, that there is transparency taking place. But I definitely think that houses of worship should, especially when we're looking at with all the content that's being created out there, what's true, what's not, for these institutions to be on the cutting edge would it just makes sense so that one, you're not falling behind, but then keeping true to community and making sure that your parishioners or your members are abreast.
Okay. All right.
What do you
Well, thank you
think?
so much for that.
I
I
know this
the
is me,
part of
but what do you think?
well, I look at AI as a tool.
Hmm.
And from the standpoint of innovation, if you look at if you look at the hymn book,
Hmm.
it's a church innovation.
I like
If you
that. Yeah.
look at if you look at the pew, the church innovation. Lights in the church,
Yeah.
it's an innovation. And I think AI is as a tool that can be used. It can help with certainly with music creation.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I have experimented with actually putting lyrics, my own original lyrics, into an AI to create uh, a copyright free worship song that I could
Nice.
use in a sermon with a sermon. And
Right.
so I'm like, yeah. So it was thematically based on what my sermon was about, and I created a song that way. And I'm not embarrassed by what it created. And I did it before last month's sermon, and I think it came out pretty good. And I vested maybe 30 minutes in it at most, and that 30 minutes included probably 5 different iterations. So,
Mm.
um, but I see it as a tool, and tools can be used to produce, and tools can be destructive
Right.
if they're not, if you don't know how to use them, or if they're used in a negative way. So that's kind of the way I look at it.
And what I appreciate about what you said as well in just that use case is in using it as a tool. There's and part of what our conversation is about as well is the mindset behind it as well. So you look at it as okay, there as the ministry, you can go out and try to license music, get someone or have a musician, and I forgot the word right now for that, but commission a musician to create something. But if you don't necessarily have the budget, but you do have the time, and then being able to create something for the ministry, and now it's not months down the line, you're not from a budgetary standpoint, it's not costing from that perspective. And now you have a solution that you don't get copyrights because you do stream. So you don't have any copyright infringement or anything like that. So by being able to think, how can I say this to my daughter all the time. She's now 11, almost teenagers, what she tells me.
All right.
Right. And I'm always saying, how are we going to solve this problem? When she asked me a question, how are we going to solve this problem? It was sometime last month that she had a project to do with her, one of her friends, and I overheard her saying, "Oh, the next app I'm going to download is Perplexity." At that time, I got a 10-year-old telling her friend that she's going to download like the app. So she's already in her mind thinking through how she's going to solve things with technology. And that's really what we're doing with Women in AI Futures. She learns AI. You've got a problem to solve. Well, how can you approach it? What resources are there at your fingertips?
And I know you said that that you're focused on women, but that there are men that are participating.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
just wondering, was there any of your peers in terms of the sessions or anything that was intentional about reaching out to boys?
Well, I would say that Sean, he's one of the trainers that we had. So he was the one who was helping, just led the AI agents programming, and he does a lot. So he's one of the folks in Atlanta who is often sought after for training. So he's been to Macon. He's done things with certain organizations as well. So I'm saying him as someone who's already participated in training, but that's anyone that came there that said they were specifically doing anything with boys. I didn't cross anyone like that, but there were, as we say, allies in the room as well.
Fantastic, fantastic. Um, this might be, well, we have a question from Dr. Clark.
Hey, Dr.
Liberty,
Clark.
I have the impression that you travel a lot. Yes, she does. Do you think that AI and various Zoom capacity increases could reduce your travel schedule? And would that be desirable?
Oh, so that's a great question, Dr. Clark. So, yes, it can. And I do still do a lot of remote. Even as I was going through the setup, I was like, wow, the last time I used that device was back in February for, there's a group of women out in San Francisco, Women XAI. And was speaking with them. So, yes, it would help with travel. But then this is also, even as I was preparing for tonight, thinking through with all of this innovation, there's also soft skills that we need to continue to nurture and maintain, or what I like to call is like the human touch. So while I could in many ways decrease my travel, there's something that happens by flying out to San Francisco and being in the events, being in the room, people seeing and getting to know parts of me that they may not necessarily get on Zoom. So the answer is yes, but I'm also very intentional as well as like showing up in these spaces as well.
Please talk a little bit about San Francisco because you based on social media, you had a great time.
I had a fantastic time. So just going out there, there were a couple of so I initially, so last year, and that's why I took a step back, hosting at office hours, just because Atlanta, Toronto, San Francisco, and all of the places, just the stability of being able to show up each Monday. But I was very intentional with all of the online and all of the training that I was doing. Where are the spaces that are really have their finger on what is happening in artificial intelligence and Gen AI? And I said, okay, I need to go to one place. And so my picks were New York, DC, and then also and then San Francisco. And it just so happened the weekend that they had this event that it worked out for my schedule. So I flew out. They held it at one of the Google offices, and it was wonderful because they were like, Oh my goodness, like you showed up here. Yes, I did. When there's something that you are intentional with, that you really believe in, you show up. And so I got a chance to meet a lot of people who are like my LinkedIn friends and now being in person and in real life. And so San Francisco has just now become more of a regular stop because of also the speed and the rate at which innovation is taking place there as well. I went a couple weeks ago, and like GitHub, and for those of you who use GitHub for your coding, your repository where you keep your code, and also having a portfolio, but they once a week they have a hackathon, like versus in some cities hackathons take months to, that's something they do regularly. So again, because I do know there's office hours folks on here as well, we show up every day on office hours. So the speed at which you can grow and learn because you're tuning in, whether you're a panelist and you're responding to questions, or you're tuning in and you're learning something every day, that's the same thing. So I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to accelerate in this space, I need to be in those places where they're moving at an accelerated space.
Absolutely. And it's, you're overdue for a visit to the Mobley's house as well. So,
I really am. It's funny you say that because last month I was like, oh wait, because I was trying to track and I was like, yeah, we're gonna make that happen.
okay. All right.
Oh, and if I
Uh,
can, sorry, share one more story with along the lines of that Get Hub. So now, Claire, I'm trying to remember what company she's with, but there was a sponsor that night, but she flew in from New York and she was showing them how to use one of these low no code tools. And there was a group of girls, as I was walking around, a group of girls that were there, and I asked them, well, what problem are you solving? For those of you who are unfamiliar with how a hackathon works, typically there is something that you're building, whether that be from a technical standpoint or if you're at a more of like a business hackathon, there's something that you've got to develop in a certain period of time. So I asked them what problem did they decide to solve? They're like, oh no, we had an idea and we just wanted to come and work on it and see what we could do by the end of the night. I said, "What?" They weren't out, doing whatever, just hanging out. They said, "Here's an environment that was created for people to learn and ask questions, and we're going to place ourselves in this environment and see what we come up with." And I say it in that way for those who are watching, that you keep hearing about this AI and you just haven't dipped your toe in, or you're like, I'll wait till later. Well, find a space. Like I said, that's why we created Women in AI Futures. Find a space, find a community, find somewhere where that is happening so that you can ask questions and through osmosis be able to get more comfortable and figure out where you fit in. So again, they had the mindset to put themselves in position to improve.
that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. Dr. Idelson is in. Dr. John Idelson says, Liberty, can you think other technology advances in the past and how AI similar or different for how you are approaching this change?
Okay, so if I understand this correctly, and it's interesting because I was thinking about this when you asked about or when you were sharing the church story, and how that can be used, and for some reason, I just had this visual of like a quill. So, way back in the day when that's what they would use. They'd use like the feather, the quill, dip it in the ink, and then write. And look where we are with being able to have these, where's my, having a mobile device that we are typing and then and for the most part, if you ever get a message from me, it's probably voice to text. And so just thinking about the way the advancement of how we like written communication to where we are with our mobile devices and typing, and I really see that voice is going to become something that is a staple, and if not more. I've been kind of thinking through, well, what are those next advancements that are happening, especially when the last couple of months, most of the big companies, if you pay attention, they have with the LLMs and being able to the natural language that is being able to use to get tasks done or to create images, like how they're refining that. Like voice is something that's going to continue to grow. So I hope that kind of answers the question, if that was the direction that you were looking for, Dr. Edelson.
And Dr. Edelson, you'll feel free to ask more questions as well as Dr. Clark and anyone else. Please feel free to ask questions. We have liberty just for a short period of time tonight, and we want to make sure. And we have a question from David Paskin. Again, you mentioned Canva. What's your take on Canva's latest release of AI at their Uncharted event?
I think it's super exciting because Canva being that company, that the little engine that could, where no one, they were looking for investors, no one was betting on them because we had Adobe Photoshop, we had all of those, just the standard tools, to the point where now people, their business models are following, what Canva is doing. I'm always like, wow, that's just so brilliant. I look at, it's called their, I think it's visual, forgive me for um, visual. It's basically like they've created something similar to Google Suite, but it's with all of their tools so that you'll be able to do more without having to switch through some of their products. And I think that what Canva does extremely well is, one, they listen to their customers. So all the feedback that they get from their customers. They've also made a significant number of acquisitions, and the those startups that are building within the ecosystem, that so I'm excited about the business side that makes it easier for the customer to use. And I really see in the next year or two the ease of use, because prompting in Canva is not like prompting in ChatGPT. Like they're not they're not an AI company, but they're becoming an AI company. So I'm excited to see those elements and how that plays out in video, how that plays out in audio. So they really are
Yeah,
positioning themselves much like Google is in their suite of products.
I agree with you. I'm excited about it as well. I was able to be one of those recipients of the early access to all the bells and whistles.
Good job.
Um,
Congrats.
and
I missed
so
it.
I haven't had a chance to fully embrace it, but I did play around with it a little bit. And on our weekly family meetings that we have every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to my siblings who may be watching, um, I know I sort of bored y'all to tears when I talked about Canva and my excitement about it, but I hope that you will share it with your children and grandchildren. Um,
Visual Suite.
we
That's the name, Visual Suite.
Yes, and we have another question, and I can't quite see the name. I think it's might be Roscoe Jones. I think it's Roscoe Jones. Hello, Roscoe. Been a
Hey,
long
Roscoe.
time. How important is mentoring in bringing women into technology careers, and how have you been mentored? Thank you,
Yeah,
Roscoe.
mentoring is extremely important as we look at these new roles that are coming about. I mentioned and I think Roscoe, you'd appreciate this, the soft skills that come, because if we look at the fact that AI, hold on, let me see if this is a telestrator moment, because I said to myself, I'm going to telestrate one moment in this of this tonight, at least one time. We over here? Okay, hold on. So if we look at the fact that according to the World Economic Forum, that we're looking at what, 70? I want to say it's like they said about 75. Oh, it's reversed. So we're not going to do that. I'll have to figure that out when you ask when you ask another question. But if we look at the fact that the rate of jobs that need to be created, and the fact that when these tools are leveling the playing field for people. So, what is going to be that differentiator? Like, how are you going to ensure that from a career or job perspective that you're continuing to grow and that you're just not here and like everyone else? Well, those are going to be your analytical folks who can process information at a rapid speed. Those are going to be your people that are your critical thinkers. Those are going to be your people who still have that human touch in their ability to communicate the team workers or team members. So when you ask about how important mentorship is going to be critical, so that what is those factors that would help to differentiate you. If we've got two.
Cut out.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, I hit my
Yeah.
microphone.
Yep.
But if we have people with the same skill set, a mentor would be able to be one that would speak to you and be able to help you with your blind spots. A mentor would be able to help you to they have the lived experience that the machine might be able to talk about it, but the mentor would be able to help and personalize that for you. So how have mentors played in my life? Tremendously. I look at the top of March, I participated as a speaker on a panel for the National Association of Black Journalists. And that was an Atlanta event. There was a regional conference. And it was because nearly 20 years ago, I worked for Mr. Terry Allen at the Business Association Center in Dallas. And he nurtured me there, helped me. My first graphic design in the US was in Black Enterprise. It was an ad for the BAC. So he opened doors for me there. And then he's followed where I've been going with AI to be able to again open a door, and then now to be able to help journalists to figure out their role and their space in this the technology. So mentorship is critical. That's definitely one of the things I don't see going anywhere.
Okay. We have another question from Dr. Clark. He says, does your focus on engaging women and girls with AI include cautions and alternative cultural strategies to tech bro culture? Wow.
I think Dr. Clark, that
That-
is phenomenal. I
He's
think
trying
there's
to
a
go there with you,
right.
Liberty.
I think there's a paper there, an article I might need to write it about that. I'm going to say yes, but that's just because responding to comments and the conversations that take place on platforms like LinkedIn, that comes up innately through that. And because there's people like Kristen Slink, and again going back to some of the women that I'm just connected to out in the Bay, like it's just stuff that we come across. So because we come across it, it's naturally taking place and those conversations are naturally happening, then it's an outpour of us responding to that. And so are we necessarily, is there curriculum teaching that? No, but it's a part of what we have to face every day, so we do address it.
That's fantastic. And I wanted to ask you, would you be willing to share the AI Tony Mobley and the AI Liberty White that Ken Jordan created so that those who have not had an opportunity to see and hear it can hear it?
Yeah, so I don't know if it will on this one if it will play the audio, but if you bear with me a second, I'm actually going to see about actually pulling it up in the script, and they just made some updates last night. So let's see. Hopefully it won't. Let's pull. Here we go. And let's grab this. I can share screen in here, right? That
I believe
okay.
you can.
Cool. Okay. So you let me know if audio plays. If not, I'm just going to scrub through. So can you see my canvas here?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So sorry. Descript is one of the part of the tech stack that I mentioned. So and we had them on office hours a couple years ago. And so it's one of those tools that if you don't necessarily have the video editing skill set, so whether that's using Final Cut, DaVinci, or Premiere, that you are actually editing by editing the text. So if you see here, this is and see, I naturally go into teacher mode because you just asked me to play the video, but I also wanted
That's
to.
okay.
Okay.
That our audience is more than willing to take a teachable moment.
Teachable moment. So there wasn't much that I needed to cut out because it had already gone through a final pass, if you want to say, because Ken created this awesome video. But what I wanted to do to kind of polish it or put a cherry on top, I should say, is knowing that captions do very well. Most people listen to content, watch content with the sound off, actually. So I wanted to make sure that I added captions to it. I have it in portrait mode because LinkedIn, another one of that's one of my main platforms. So LinkedIn, the audience, they have been doing so much with video in the past 2 years. They prioritize video. So I was like, okay, let's put this in the mode that they're most comfortable with. So it was, and I did a screen record because it was, I should have, yeah, if I had thought about this earlier, I would have said, "Hey, can I get the original video file?" But I screen recorded the video, and so in doing that, if you see here where I've got that highlighted, it is this ignore. So this actually is in this "Hey there, wonderful people. Hey there, wonderful," because I had recorded it a couple of times to try to get it at that very moment. So just by highlighting and say ignore, it cut that out of the video frame, and then the rest of it was just me going in and needing to tweak how the captions show up online. Give me one moment because I just need to move that out of the way. But then yeah, then you'll see here my layers. So this is making sure that I cite and credit there. We've got the captions, and you have the ability over here to their plug and play of captions that you are that the most popular ones, and or if you want from a template perspective that you've got a templated style. I don't normally have the wave file, so I wanted to try something new because I think it just added some visual interest. So if I just take a moment to play this, let me know if you hear it.
Yes, I can hear it. It's not coming through.
Okay. So we can drop the link, maybe. Drop the link for
Well, I
folks.
can I can I can play a version of it, but it's not as pretty as yours.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's fine. Like, well, just scrubbing through so that people can see that. So that original. So this is the original file from Ken. Went in, put in just some interesting background. So that's just a screenshot of you that I blurred out so that it just gives a little bit more interest than it just being like black. And then just the caption. So it didn't take long at all. Again, I didn't have to do much editing besides just making sure that I added the captions and the style with the waveform. So you'll see that right here. I just dragged that on and and made those edits. So I think, as I told you, Tony, that my when you posted it last week, I got all these DMs. So shout out to Ken Jordan for pulling this together. I got all these DMs. I got text messages. When people actually respond and like send you a message like, "Hey, how'd you do that?" So Ken's gonna have to come back on
Yes,
and do.
I've already talked to him about it, but here it goes. Maybe you can hear this. Hey there, wonderful people. Tony Mobley here with exciting news. Next Wednesday, April 16th at 8 p.m. EST, our dear friend Liberty White returns to the show. You've loved her in our previous conversations about children's media, technology trends, and that fascinating AI discussion with Ken Jordan. This time, we're diving into her recent Women in AI Futures event that set Atlanta ablaze last March. From online workshops to that incredible summit at Atlanta Tech Village, Liberty created something truly revolutionary for women in technology. I caught part streaming online, but those in-person sessions at the Lola were something special. Mark your calendars for Wednesday at 8. This is one conversation you won't want to miss. Liberty, give our folks a preview of what's coming.
Tony, always a joy to reunite with you and your amazing listeners. Each time I join you, it feels like coming home. From our first technology discussion to our deep dive with Ken into AI, every conversation has been meaningful. This Women in AI Futures event was truly a passion project. 5 incredible days where women from all backgrounds discovered their place in the AI revolution. Next Wednesday, I'll bring fresh insights from the front lines of this movement and share how She Learns AI continues to evolve as a platform for empowerment. Can't wait to be back on your show, Tony. See everyone Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern.
There you have it. Our friend Liberty White returns next Wednesday for another fantastic conversation. Get your questions ready. We'll be taking your questions live on the show as always. Until then, this is AI Tony Mobley, reminding you that great conversations don't just inform, they transform. Stay curious.
That was so awesome.
Yeah. Ken Jordan, thank you so much. I've reached out to Ken and we're going to have him on soon to talk about, this whole process of creating this. And we're excited to have him come back soon. And so,
So even with that, even in creating that video, and I even look at someone like Ken, who has had an agency for X number of years, creative director, leading a team, but for him to see, like many of us, see the writing on the wall of how industries are changing, how the nature of work is changing, and he's dialed in on the tools and what's happening and how he can evolve. And that's really what a lot of this us having this conversation tonight is: in what ways do you, as someone who's watching or listening, whether it be using it in your personal world, because I always say if you use Siri or Alexa or anything, you're already using AI. So you're already there using it, but looking at it from the perspective of your work and what your work is going to, how your work is shifting already, so that you don't get left behind or that you are prepared for what's next. Because if you're not thinking about it, your employer is, because they're looking at it from efficiencies, cost savings. The CEO of Shopify last week, this was in all my text groups, he had said no new hires unless AI can't do it. So, and once someone at that stature, people are already thinking about that. People may have concerns about, well, how and why, but this is how employers are thinking. So for you to get ahead of that, and then also at the end of the day, that's just business sense. It's like me as a mom saying, no, we're not going to have Mickey D's. We have food at home. So, just
right.
looking at that parallel, it sounds harsh because it is technology. It's people's jobs at risk, but also, well, how can you prepare for that? What are the things that you may need to do? So thinking of what tasks are repetitive that they are going to say where we've got tools that can do that task. So how can you not only master those tools, but position yourself so that you're doing more of the critical thinking or the creative side of it, and then using those tools to be more creative.
Yeah, all of that, what you're saying right now actually speaks to the question that Roscoe is asking. And he says, have you encountered people who are afraid of AI, and how do you help them be less fearful?
Yes, those are our AI fearful folks. We actually have a program that we do. We call it AI Confidence, 3-day boot camp where we take people through. And what it is a part of it is literacy. So getting people comfortable with the terms, what that means, so they can ask questions. Because that's the biggest thing is it's the unknown that people are really afraid of. So by taking them through that and showing them the baseline, and then I was like, getting your hands in the action, the actual doing. So taking them through some prompt engineering, showing them some of the tools and how to use the tools. There was a lady, and I didn't even realize that she wasn't in Atlanta. So she was joining us out in San Francisco. And so her job, she's a project manager, and they're very tedious tasks that she has to do. And she didn't even realize that while she was using a tool like ChatGPT, some of the ways that she could use it to just help her to accelerate her work. So those are some of the ways that we help. It's really going back to the mindset, helping people the mindset shift, but showing people what's possible. Because when you show people what's possible, that's why I really appreciate what I see coming out of OpenAI with their live streams. Because if you notice, their live streams are very basic. It is they come on camera, they have exciting news, somebody tells a story, somebody shows you how they used it, and then the world goes crazy and goes and tries it now. Because can you imagine if that was just a press release or if that was just
Hmm.
on their blog? No, they added a human element to this very technical concept so that people could to help spark some ideas. And then on their blog, they give you a long list of examples of how you can use it, so that by knowing their audience, that they are sparking something in their developers, in their marketers, in their leaders. They just released a prompt engineering book, so education is huge. So while, and I'll wrap with this because I feel like I'm getting long-winded, but with
Well, I,
yeah.
I have a couple. We're all running out of time, but one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we did address is that most of us, most of the people that are probably watching, and most of us are sort of interested in this stuff. How do we get to the average person who has heard the term AI, but kind of feels like that's for somebody else? Do you have any ideas on how to do that? I know that, your initiative is, part of that, but do you have some other things that's going to sort of tap to just regular people?
Yeah, I would say regular people, it's what you already shared that you're doing. You're telling, so what it's each one teach one. So this is us going into the senior citizen centers, this is us going into schools, into the sororities, going into the places where people gather, and then whether that is workshops or even providing material that they can integrate into their program. That's a lot of requests that we get is, oh, we're having a conference. Can you do something? Can you show up? So I look at those things as going into the highways and byways.
We were running out of time, but I want you to share, before I get to the last question, please share all of your links where people can connect with you.
Yeah, so Women and AI Futures, you can go there, and that's all the wonderful programming that we just had. And She Learns AI, I'd say like that's the main one. So whenever there's a workshop or a campaign or a challenge, we in the next week you should see some more about just our being able to join our community and access our monthly webinars and just getting yourself fully immersed in AI.
Okay. Thank you, Liberty White, so much for that. And our last final question is, what's next for you? What's next for
Rest.
you? You and the reason I'm asking is because you've been through all of this stuff that you've done. You just got off vacation, and I impose upon you to be on with me. And again, I'm
You
apologize.
did not impose. No, this is not an imposition at all.
Well, I know that you've been through a lot in the last couple of months, and I'm glad you did get a chance to have some vacation. Um, but what's next for you in terms of maybe a couple of things you want to share in terms of long term, short term?
Yeah, so it really is building out our institute. So that is the training that we have been doing. If we again just talking through this past year has been so much experimental stuff. So we have a lot of data, we have a lot of testimonials, and now putting more structure around it because as much as many groups and organizations are focused on the youth, our thesis is if we can help, I'll say moms, but if we can help parents where they are feeling more confident at work, confident in their job security, if they feel like they have the skills necessary to either pivot or shift, that then helps the family, that helps the household, that then helps the community, that then helps the city, that then helps the country. So we're very focused on adult education. So what's next for me is making sure that we build that out because I understand it. Like we're looking forward to the next generation, but this is happening right now, and we have the ability to
Real
help
time.
people right now.
It's real time. It's real
Yeah.
time. It's happening right now. Liberty White, thank you so much.
Thank you so
I
much, Tony.
apologize to those people that we did not get to your question. We apologize. We're going to have Liberty back sometime in the near future when she has a chance to do some more work and get some rest, and then we'll have her back again. We want to thank everyone for watching tonight's conversation with Liberty White. And I'm just going to just say to everyone who's watching, if you glean something that's helpful and important to you, I ask that you share it with your family members. Please do that. There are the times in which we are living. It's important for people to have as many things in their back pocket as they can. And I'm gonna leave it at that. Conversation with Tony Mobley is produced by Value Audio Visual Professionals who meet daily on Office Hours Global, hosted by Alex Lindsay. We are powered. This conversation is powered by Mimo Live. We are powered by Boink Software Mimo Live. And if you don't know what that is, I encourage you to look it up. We have conversations with real people. Stay tuned for new episodes and great conversations. We want to thank everyone for the 100 plus episodes of Conversation with Tony Mobley. And when you have time, we ask that you go and look back. And we think you will find something that you like and is hopefully helpful. We want to thank Liberty White for being a part of this conversation today and for being the person who you are and doing the work that you do. Thank you so much, Liberty, again. Next week, we are going to have an accessibilities panel. And I think with everything that's going on in the world, this is going to be an important conversation. So we ask that you join us next week for our accessibilities panel. We want to thank everyone again for tuning in and for those that might rewatch. Conversation with Tony Mobley has engaging conversations with real people. And we are on YouTube and we are at the conversationwithtonymobley.com website. And we ask that you please like and subscribe And you can also donate your time, and you can donate financially if you choose to. And there's a place on our website where you can see where you can support us in a variety of different ways. We want to say thank you, everyone. Take care. God bless. See you soon. Bye bye.